if the alarm goes off, please leave the building in an orderly fashion through the nearest fire exit. Please use the fire exit through the main doors of the hall or the fire exit in the storeroom adjacent to the stage. The fire assembly point is the island in front of the main entrance to the building. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings, and please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please be reminded to switch off your mobile phone and turn any other electronic devices being used to silent. Please ensure your microphone is switched on when speaking and you speak clearly into the microphone. If you are seated in the public area of the chamber, it is likely that your image will be captured by the recording cameras and result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. Members, that if for any reason you are not present for the whole of the debate of an item, you will not be allowed to vote on that item. May I remind you, members, to declare any interests and the nature of the interest at the beginning of an agenda item, and that on declaring a pecuniary interest, you are required to leave the room when that item of business is considered. And we move on to item number 1, apologies for absence and substitute members. I have apologies from Councillor Newport, Lisa Newport. Does anyone else have any apologies? No? Okay. We'll move on to the next item 3, non-members attending. Are there any non-members in attendance? No? Okay. Item 4, to receive declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Item 5, Chair's report. You will have all had the copy of the report, members, in relation to the areas covered under the terms of reference of the Community's Wellbeing and Housing Committee. Do any committee members have questions?
Chairman, sorry. On the chairman's report, I'd like somebody to find out for me, please. When will the next Crime Safety Partnership meeting be? And have they any planned events in the district, please?
Okay, thank you. Who can answer that?
I'm just trying to find the date. So.
Thank you.
The next Community Safety Partnership meeting is on Tuesday, the 24th of September, and that's being held in the committee room at Castle Point Council offices. And in terms of events, I'll have to distribute those to members after this meeting. Okay, there is one in Barring, I think there is. Was it Baring? But I haven't got the date on me for that. It's not in my diary.
Councillor Marriott, would you like to come back?
Only to thank the officer.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor McPherson?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the community event in Barling is cost of living event.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. My question's on item.
Could you please do your mic?
Thank you. Apologies, Chairman. My question's on page 5.4. It's regarding the number of households that are in temporary emergency accommodation. There's 11 there placed outside of the district. I don't know if the officer will be able to enlighten us. Are these families, how far away are they? How long have they been in temporary accommodation? Because obviously that has an effect, especially if you've got young children at school, that sort of thing. Thank you, Chairman.
Would you like to come back?
Yes, so essentially a lot of those placements are in specialist temporary accommodation that just doesn't exist within the district. So a good number of those are so supported, people who require a higher level of support, and that accommodation just doesn't exist here. The rest of those people at the time were in short-term emergency accommodation, just waiting for a space to arise in temporary accommodation here. So it's usually in our neighbouring authorities. It won't be very far from here. The majority of those are in Southend, and they're short-term placements until something becomes available here. But the other ones, they will continue to be placed there because it's the only location that type of supported temporary accommodation exists.
Thank you, Chairman.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you for that. So that will be voted. I'd like to talk about World Suicide Prevention Day. Today, we are supporting the World Suicide Prevention Day by lighting up the Rayleigh Windmill green. This is part of the Creating Hope Through Light event, where we join organisations across Essex who are lighting up buildings and landmarks green. We can all support this campaign by taking 20 minutes out of our day to complete the online suicide prevention training. Further information on this important topic can be found on the Council's social media channels, and it's free. I'd like to move on to item 6, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. Angela Abbott, would you please present the report?
Thank you, Chairman. This report is in relation to the Council's homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. The current strategy, which was produced in 2018 and updated in 2019, has been reviewed. It is a statutory requirement to review this strategy every 5 years, which we have done. The review originally started in 2022, but was put on hold due to the organisation changes. Which was then restarted in September 2023. And we went out to consultation at that time. What we've identified is that the strategy as existing is still entirely relevant. So there's been very minor changes to the strategy as proposed, and it is a refresh of the existing document. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor FD.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a few questions on the strategy document. 6.9 on the right-hand side of the page, which is placing homeless prevention on a statutory basis regardless of probability of need, whether someone may be intentionally homeless. What is meant by intentionally homeless? Is that making themselves homeless?
Yes, essentially that is they've done something or failed to do something which has caused their own homelessness. So, for example, it could be that they have failed to pay their rent, or they've committed acts of antisocial behaviour, things like that.
And if they do that, would they stay that position on the list? Would they go down to back to the bottom of the list?
So this is slightly different to the housing register list. So this relates to homelessness. So essentially, if you are made, so if we look through the duties, if you're made intentionally homeless, we may not owe you certain duties. Usually your status remains that way until you break that chain of intentionality. So you don't carry it around with you for the rest of your life, but essentially you need to break that chain. So you would need to hold a tenancy or have a change in circumstances, which then means that you're reviewed on your last set of circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Right, next one.
Do you have a second question?
Yeah, I've got quite a few questions. Sorry. With the current challenges, I know the council later on in the report says they review every year, but the change of government, will they be keeping an eye on what new legislation comes through, if anything has to do with actually, our governments like tinkering with things?
Yes, I mean, we're always basically keeping an eye on any changes in legislation that are coming through, and as a housing authority, we will be notified of any changes, and we will also, all authorities will be consulted on any changes before they're actually implemented.
Okay. And 10, current funding. It goes into this government funding as well. What is the supplement at the moment? So I don't think it's very much. Well, we have to find it out of our general fund.
I'll double check the exact figures, but it's around about, because we've had a slight increase this year, I think, in recognition that actually homelessness rates are going up, but it's around about 375,000 that's paid in to do all of so that's got to run the
It's not much,
service,
is it?
the staffing and accommodation. So obviously the council does then from its general fund allocate an additional budget to top that up, but it's a grant fund that comes to us annually.
Okay. Right, in 6.13, where it says to prevent homelessness in private rented sector. At the moment, it seems to be quite a relevant thing in the news that private landlords are setting up because of the taxes that are being imposed on them. What are we doing to engage with the landlords? And that does say further on in the report that you're engaging with private landlords. It doesn't actually say what you're doing.
Yeah, so there's actually, within the district, it's actually quite low levels of privately rented, so it's a very small pool to start with. We do have an officer that's dedicated to this, so she's got some long-term landlords that she's worked with for quite a long time. Obviously, we will pay rent and deposit for people who are moving into those properties, and the officer is available to provide not forever, but a tenancy sustainment period. So if people get into difficulties or helping them set up their benefits, etc. It's quite a good offer that not all boroughs and districts do. And so obviously that does help us get properties, but we're always, the officers going out and trying to engage anyone that they can, and different estate agents and managing agents. But it's an uphill battle now. There are lots more people competing for every property that becomes available.
Okay, and with new tenants on 6.15, I know we used to do a online sort of training course thing for new tenants in conjunction with Essex. I can't quite remember the name of it. Do we still do that?
Yes, we do still have that online training course for new tenants.
Just looking at my notes. Okay. You've answered that. Oh, it says 6.18. It references the new local plan. How is that? Is that still on target to be completed? The new local plan, or?
I'm afraid that's outside of my area,
That's
so
fine.
it would need. But I can ask Miss Goodings, the director of place, and obviously we can come back to you on that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out on the 19th when they discuss that. Get that on there. Oh yes, it says on 6.19, the council will also consider the council's assets available in the district, and if these can be utilised to support the delivery of new homes. What assets are the council looking at to support the delivery of new homes?
So at the moment it says we will.
Will.
That work, and we can, because obviously this will be a long-term strategy. That piece of work has not started yet, but we do need to look at accommodation options and obviously support. And we've got assets. So in every asset that becomes available, obviously the option potentially for that to become housing would be looked at. But there's no specifics. This is more to obviously have that in the strategy so that we're able to do that.
That's okay. And of bit 15 is working alongside approach to bring back empty houses into use. I know Sanctuary bring back empty houses into use, but what do we do? Is that alluring to us as a council to bring back empty houses into use, or is you just talking about Sanctuary or our partners?
So we can refer to anyone, and our partners are bringing back sort of their empty homes that have been empty for quite some time. It is difficult for us to do a huge amount on this issue. If we don't own the homes, we can't force people to bring them back into use if they can afford to keep them and obviously pay the council tax, etc. So it's a very time time-consuming bit which the council doesn't currently have the resources to do, but we will always engage with landlords through usually enforcement activities. So if there is anything happening, that option's available. But it is difficult to do a lot in this area if they're privately owned. So it is mainly working with ensuring that the housing associations are bringing back any empty properties that they have as quickly as possible. And we do have meetings with them to obviously monitor things like void rates.
Okay, thank you. And 18, supporting vulnerable groups. I don't know if it's today, but imminently we're going to get quite a few prisoners released from prison. Have we got anything in place if someone happens to come our way?
So we've had the stats and they are relatively low for the district, so people who would be responsible, but ultimately if they, and not everybody that would be released wouldn't have somewhere to go. If they are being released homeless, we would get notified and then we would work with them in the same way we would do with any prison release. There's no difference just because they're being released early, but we would get notified of that and we would work with them through the homeless route. But it doesn't mean that anybody is being released. They may well have somewhere to go.
Okay. And that's that on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor FD. Councillor Marriott.
Page 6.9, on the paragraph it says, council nominates households to 75% of the housing social properties. So that's 75%. I was just curious as to what happens with the other 25%. Is it single people or are those nominated by charities or another partner?
Councillor, I'm sorry, Ms Abbott, are you able to answer that?
So the remaining 25% of the properties, they would be used by the housing associations themselves through their own registers or their transfer list.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on following on from that last question, am I correct that for new builds it's still 100% nomination rights to social housing, regardless of the social housing landlord?
I thought it was 90%, but I will clarify that point.
Thank you. I thought if it was a social housing proportion, we still had 100% nomination rights. So yeah, I'll leave that one with you.
Yeah, you might be right. Sorry, it's quite a lot of questions straight at once.
Yeah.
You might be right, actually. I think on new builds, it's 100% of the affordable lettings that come through.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And my question was, I know you monitor the number of evictions. It's on page 6.29. But you work already with the landlords. Do you have conversations with them so they're able to alert you if somebody's falling behind so that you can work with them around affordability and budgeting?
It's something that we'd always encourage. Obviously, for a housing service, it would always be a much better position for us to be alerted much more quickly because we're then able to help or be much more effective in what help we can provide to applicants and also landlords. So it's definitely something that we would encourage.
Thank you. And Chairman, just one more, please. With regard to when somebody declares themselves homeless to our district, how do you work with the district that they should be reporting to? So if they've lived for 7 years in Basildon, that would be their local authority.
So we would have to assess the individual's circumstances. So local connection would be the last thing that we'd always look at. So where we would consider it appropriate to refer an applicant to another authority because they have got a local connection, it's safe for them to be referred back there, then we would then complete that referral and then work with that local authority because they can reject a referral. So, but that local connection is always the last thing when we're looking to assist an applicant.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. My understanding is that we're very fortunate in the Rochford district that we don't actually have too much of a problem with homelessness. What it might actually help members to understand would be if we have idea of the sort of numbers that we're talking about. I understand why they're not in this report, but it might help members to understand the level of support that we are being asked to give. The other thing is that the housing policy for Rochford is due to be reviewed sometime soon. Is there likely to be an impact on this particular area as a result of that? Thank you.
So with regards to the numbers, we're trying to give some level of overview in the Chair's report about homelessness, and we'll commit to doing that kind of for every report. But absolutely, we can add those numbers in of approaches for homelessness. Approaches are increasing. That is not unusual to this district. That is pretty much nationwide now, but not to the levels at the moment where it's impacting our ability to provide the service. But we will absolutely make sure we include that in the next Chair's report. With regards to the allocations policy, in reality, everything's got to be looked at, but we would always be looking to make sure that it provides a service for the residents, but also we would not be looking to try and adversely impact people into making them homeless. So again, all options would be considered. That would go out for consultation, but we would again look to what is happening around us, the changes that are made, and carefully consider any impact that changes in that area would make on homelessness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any more questions? Well, thank you for all those questions. That's been really interesting. We have one recommendation that the committee approves the homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 2023 to 2028. I would like to proceed to move this recommendation from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor FD. By a show of hands, can we vote for? That is unanimous. Members against and abstain. The motion is carried. We now move on to item 7, the leisure procurement. Phoebe Barnes will present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Members, in front of you tonight is the report which updates you on the progress to date regarding the procurement of the leisure services that the Council is jointly procuring with its strategic partner, Brentford Borough Council. This Council in the first initial tender stages has received 3 submissions from 3 nationally recognised operators. Obviously, at this moment in time, we are still in a live procurement, so we are bound by commercial sensitivity. The committee is asked to confirm the preferred investment options for both Clements and Rayleigh Leisure Centres, which is detailed in paragraph 2.5, which the operators will base on their final submission. However, just to point out that these investments would be subject to a full business case being presented back to the Council if the Council is to put that investment into them preferred investment options. In addition, the report also touches on the request from the Council to consider in-house operations, and a report was commissioned, and that report is detailed in Appendix A and clarifies and demonstrates that at this moment in time the preferred option is to continue with the joint procurement. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor FD.
Not as many as last time. Right. I might have missed it, but is no mention of a consultation that's actually gone out to our residents before we've started this? It was brought up in the last audit committee that we should have gone to a consultation before the ADP. So if I've missed it, I apologise, but I think are we going to do that?
Councillor FD, we did do a consultation.
Okay, so I've missed it. I didn't notice in the report. Okay, that's fine. So that was a nice, easy one to answer. Next one. It mentions that they want to turn the Clements Hall, want to turn the cafe into a soft, soft play. But if I remember correctly, the cafe used to generate about 20% of the profit. Are they going to reduce the profit on this cafe to put it on something that doesn't quite earn as much? I know the last couple of years the cafe hasn't earned very much, but I think that's been for lack of staffing and lack of will to actually have it open by Fusion.
Maybe are you able to answer that?
So the cafe facilities, as in the kitchen, that will not change. What the proposal is in the cafe area, that a soft play will be installed to support the offering from the food and beverage to actually generate more additional income. And myself and Paul have been having initial conversations with the three operators, and they've all said that the proposals, the investment proposals, would generate additional revenue or are enhancements that the leisure centres need, and that the figures that we are proposing are reasonable and realistic.
Just processing what you said. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, that one. Yeah, I think there's one more. Oh, it mentions about a condition survey of the buildings. What is a condition survey and what's the difference between that for a full structural survey? Because if we're going to invest in bringing these buildings up to a certain standard, I'd like to know what actually is going to be involved in that.
So the condition survey takes on the structure, but also the M&E. So the equipment inside the facilities, boilers, looks at fixed wiring, etc. and that as well. So we've had them, we have them now. So we are working with our existing operator and would be working with our new operator under what is the council's responsibility to maintain, what is the operator's responsibility to maintain, and then how we liaise that with the budgeting going forward as well.
Come back slightly on that. So a full structural survey, you're saying it's the same as a condition survey?
A full structural survey will look at, for example, if you've got subsidence, so we'll go into drilling into the cavity of the wall or going into the foundations and that as well. To the condition survey looks at the life expectancy of what the building is, the fabric of the building, the M&E, so takes in the totality. We would do a full structural survey if we had concerns around the structure or specific elements of it, a roof, for example, or if we had subsidence. A full structural survey wouldn't take account of the M&E within inside the building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor FD. Does anyone? Councillor Marriott.
On item on 7.5, I noticed for this timetable, there's a lot of work to be done in a short period of time. Have we got any kind of contingencies in place if something causes that to slip?
Thank you. Phoebe?
So we've been working with our consultants, SLC, who've been providing us support, and obviously we have external legal support. We are confident, obviously, we've in the table, it also says what we've completed. Bid and negotiator meetings, they have happened. We are on track to invite the submission of revised tenders, and all the staff have got their diaries blocked out to look at the revised submissions and evaluate them in time to get to scrutiny for council and get the decision awarded. If there is slippage, what that does do is it eats into the contract mobilisation. So if we was to have to award the contract in January, that would eat into mobilisation with the new operator. We have had them discussions in the bidders meetings. All operators ideally would like 12 weeks, but they have worked in periods of up to 1 week's mobilisation. We won't be there, but they have the ability to mobilise quite quickly.
Thank you very much.
Good.
The meeting we've already had with the three bidders, when they rebid, it's not a completely new bid. It's just to make alterations to their first bid following our conversation. So we won't be re-evaluating everything that comes back in. So it's slightly less of a big job.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chair. Alternative options considered. The last paragraph on 7.5 talks about the possibility of looking at in-house taking around 18 months as opposed to 3 months if we actually hand it out to any of these bidders. I'm acutely aware of the build up to the ADP and having a similar sort of conversation where we were told that we just couldn't do it in-house and it was just dismissed. I'd like to see a lot more reasoning behind why we can't do it in-house. History dictates that I think that we should actually have that information. I'm not saying that I disagree with the conclusions, but I think having had the experience in council of what has actually happened and that we've ended up with a very adverse situation, I'd like to see the costs comparison. I'd like to see the reasons why it takes longer. And obviously staffing is going to come into that. I appreciate that. But I think that would, the members would appreciate having a little bit of expansion on the reasoning behind in-house as against to contracting out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. You.
Apologies, councillors. I've just noticed that there should be an Appendix A accompanying this report, and it's not there, and that would answer all your questions. So I'll have that circulated to you after. And obviously, if anyone does have any questions on that report, happy to answer them outside of the meeting. Apologies for that, but your questions would have been answered with that. So I'll get that circulated.
I shall look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Questions? Thank you. I just have a quick question to Phoebe, if you would bear with me. Will there be a cap on price increases for members and non-members of the leisure centre when the new providers are in place? And a secondary question about the squash courts, that are they being reduced in numbers, and what will be there instead, please?
I will take the question on pricing. So yes, as part of the contract, we will be working in a kind of cap around what the inflation will be to the prices, which the operator will be, and there will be a mechanism where if they are to go above that or wish to, it has to come back to council before council was to approve it. But if it's within the cap, they can increase it. And I'll pass over to Paul to answer the question on the squash courts.
Sorry, what was the question? I missed the question because Phoebe was talking to me, so apologies.
Squash courts at Rayleigh Leisure Centre, they currently have 4 now. Are they being reduced by numbers? And if so, what will be there instead?
So proposals are to reduce the number, and I must say there are proposals at this stage. And they're looking for more studio space. And that's all 3 are looking for more studio space to provide classes, activity classes, which would see far more people using those areas than will be paid for by squash. So it's giving more people access to the facility. But again, as Phoebe's already said, for that to go ahead, even though you're approving that tonight, that may happen, a full business case would have to be done, so we get an understanding of whether that does impact on the bottom line income and access to. But certainly we'll be working with the new operator, whoever, to get the final design. So what you're agreeing here tonight is not the final design of what will happen. It's just so that we're able to tell the bidders, go ahead with these things and give us the price for that and how the bid will look. Then from that, we can judge who is the best person. Then we can start working with them on the final option. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. It does clarify a lot for us, and we can look forward to more information on that then.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Reeves has one more
Sorry,
question.
just a quick one. Following on from that one there, I presume any of these alterations will come back to the committee for consideration?
Yeah, the full business case, because there will be potentially a financial contribution from the council. So all of that will be wrapped up. The contract, the award of the contract does not confirm or deny that we will be doing any of those refurbishments. They are subject to a later report where we will be accepting or rejecting doing whatever, but that's on the final business case.
So just for clarification then, are you saying then that the contract will be awarded and then the decision will be made about these alterations?
Subject to a full and final business case being done at that time. The contract will not accept what you've put in there tonight is going to be a yes, it will definitely happen. For example, if it won't happen, but if the bottom falls out swimming and no one's going swimming anymore, we wouldn't want in a contract that we're going to refurbish an entire swimming pool area. So what we're trying to make sure is at the right time a business case comes forward, because you might not want to do all those things in year one. You might want to spread it over 3 years. We might want to consider what we want to finance, and quite rightly, things may change in that period. So we want to leave it as flexible as possible within the contract. We will be investing, but we're not going to confirm exactly what that is when the contract is signed.
Okay, if I may come back just then. So to clarify again, sorry, the final decision will be made by the committee stroke council, not by the provider. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Is that, we have one more question from Councillor.
Just a clarification. So we're looking at, we may be investing in bringing leisure centres up to a different standard to what we've got now, to whatever the provider wants. At that time, will we do a full structural survey so we know what we're spending? Because we've been doing this path before with other assets and haven't had the best outcome. So spending the extra money at the beginning, I think, is worth doing, other than fall foul at the end. So that's my main hesitation on this.
Phoebe, are you able to answer?
Yeah, so we have all the information as part of the procurement on the condition of the buildings and the proposed costs of maintaining the buildings as part of the life cycle. With this procurement, which we don't have with the current operator, is there will be a lease between us and the operator, and then a service contract. The lease will detail what is the responsibility of the council, what is the responsibility of the operator. If the operator does not meet what is classified in the lease to the standard, to the expectation we are expecting, we then are able to then go down dilapidations orders. We currently cannot do that because we do not have a lease with our current provider. So at the same time as well, from that condition survey, based on what we are going to be responsible for, I'm working with finance to align the budgets of the future capital programme so that we are committed to doing the works when they are required to keep the building operational and the life expectancy of the building going.
I was going to come back. Sorry, I'm understanding what you're saying, but how do we know what we've got to spend if we haven't actually done a proper survey to find out what we've actually got to spend? Do the condition survey, as you said, is not going into the structure of the building. So 3 or 4 years down the line, we come to redo a swimming pool in one of the buildings. I know the building is built in the 80s, so it might look great on the surface looking at it. That spending extra money doing a proper survey, we actually know exactly what we're going to be spending, other than all of a sudden they have a great big bill and they go, well, if you've got to spend this, we're not going to take the contract up.
The survey that we've had done is an external survey by qualified surveyors. It's a structural survey and a condition survey are one of the same thing. They've put costs, it's the same as the survey that we've had done that's informing all the works on the mill by the same company. They are qualified, they look at the condition of everything, they put an estimate on the life expectancy, or if it's at the end, and then put an estimate on the cost based on the costs of today. What we then need to do is we have to take that condition survey and we have to apply inflation to the future years, because what the cost of replacing a boiler system is today will not be the same cost in 5 years' time. What the condition survey does is it prioritises what needs to be done by when. So it looks at everything. It goes priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. It looks at compliance to ensure that we are compliant under the Building Regulations Act and all legislation. So anything that's a priority 1 is usually due to compliance and us not meeting that. So it's an urgent matter we must resolve urgently. Priority 2 and priority 3 then gives time, hence why then you get a 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then 10 years plus of replacement.
So just clarification, it's a condition and structural survey, which I'm sorry you didn't quite say when I asked you the first time. So thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you for clarifying all those points. We have 3 recommendations on the table. Recommendation 1 is to approve the revised investment options to go forward to the revised tender stage of the leisure procurement process. Are we happy to take, shall I read the other two and then we can decide if we're happy to take all three? To present a report to Scrutiny and Performance Committee pre-award of leisure services contract on the 5th of December 2024. And the third recommendation is to make recommendations to full council on the 17th of December 2024 in relation to the contract award for the leisure services. I'm going to move this from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Okay.
Can I just ask a
Councillor
question on
Reeves?
those recommendations, please? Because we haven't got the Appendix A, and I think it's quite important that we have that as part of our consideration. I don't know how we can deal with that within the recommendations. That's the only thing I've... Have you got any suggestions?
Ms. Barnes. Councillor Reeves, Appendix A doesn't affect the overall report. It was a recommendation from the working group to look at that, and that has been answered. So therefore, these recommendations can go forward without the approval of the Appendix A.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
So I would like to move these recommendations en bloc, and do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Those in favour? 5. Those against? 1. And those abstaining? 1. Okay. Got that. Okay. That motion is carried. Thank you. That concludes our business for this evening. The meeting closes at 20:12. Thank you all for your attendance.